Hello and welcome to Evelyn Reports Women's Sports. Today I'm going to talk about the favorite to win the French Open tennis tournament. It begins on May 25th and ends on June 8th. And we are really deep into the clay court season in tennis. We've already seen the winners of Charleston and we've seen the winners of Madrid and Stuttgart. And so, even though the Italian Open is probably the best predictor for who will do well at the French Open, even though we're only at the quarterfinal stage at this point, I still feel like I've seen enough of tennis this year and throughout the clay season to accurately make my prediction on who will be the favorite. Now, the criteria that I'm using is I'm not going to take the draw into a factor. We don't even have the draw yet, right? And if you're worried about the draw, if you're a player and you're worried about the draw, you hope you don't see this person, you hope you see this person, then you're not going to be the favorite. I also look at past successes. There's no bigger determinant on how well you're going to do in a tournament, oftentimes, than how well you have done previously. Now, with that being said, current form can play a big factor, and it's probably going to play a factor in the prediction that I make. I also look at your current rankings because that's often tied into your current form. And are you a clay specialist? The women do not play as many tournaments as the ATP does on clay. So there are not as many men that are even clay court specialists now compared to probably maybe 20, 30 years ago. But in the women's, there really aren't any. So there's no one on this list who I would put as a clay court specialist, save for the first player that I'm going to look at, and that is the prior winner, Iga Swiatek, three-time defending champ. She's won it 4 times, and she is the undisputed queen of clay, or at least she was at the end of last year when she had just won the French Open. She was the defending champ of Madrid, she was the defending champ of Italy, and she was the defending champ of the French Open. So what happened after that? She lost in the semifinals in Roland Garros at the Paris 2024 Olympics. She did come back and win a bronze, but after that she performed kind of how she'd been performing in the past few years, didn't make any big splash at the US Open. Then she was gone for a little while, and we found out later in the fall why she had been gone. There had been a drug test infraction. She didn't get the sentence that Jannik Sinner got, but she did have a little bit of time off of the tour last fall. She reemerged at the WTA finals, which she qualified for and didn't play that great there. She had a new coach that she brought in, the well-traveled Wim Fissette, and you thought, wow, this is going to be exciting with Iga Swiatek. And she had, for her, a really good Australian Open. She had a match point on Madison Keys. Unfortunately, she netted the backhand and lost 7-5 in the semifinals to Keys, who obviously went on to win. And then the rest of her year did not have as much success. She lost at Doha, where she was the defending champ. She lost at Indian Wells, where she's the defending champ. She lost in Madrid, where she was the defending champ. And she lost just recently, pretty early on, in the Italian Open, where she's the defending champ. It's not just that she's lost, it's when she's lost and how she's lost that is of concern. In Madrid, she lost to Coco Gauff, who she has beaten at the French Open the past 3 years. She could always depend on beating Coco Gauff, but now Coco Gauff has 3 straight wins against her, and the last one was a 6-1, 6-1 demolish of Iga Swiatek by Coco Gauff in Madrid, and it wasn't even as close as that score would indicate. There are concerns about her serve. There are concerns about Iga Swiatek's forehand and movement and her coach situation. Under every normal circumstance, she would be the favorite, but she's tumbled down the rankings to number 4. She does not look in good form right now, so I am not going to have her as the favorite. Next player is Barbora Krejcikova, who won in 2021. She won Wimbledon last year. Haven't seen much of her this year, and so I can't put her as a favorite. Jelena Ostapenko. She is the player that owns a 6-love record against Iga Swiatek. She just won Stuttgart. The only issue with her is it was 2017 when she won the French Open. She's the type of player that wins a tournament, then she loses the first round. Goes into the quarterfinals, semifinals, loses first round, maybe wins. There's just too much up and down. She has a very volatile game and it gives volatile results. So I'm not going to put her as a favorite. Now we're looking at past prior finalists. Probably forgot that Sofia Kenin, the 2020 Australian Open champion, was also in the finals of the French Open when it was held in 2020 at the end of the season. It was kind of a bleak, cold French Open, but she was able to make it to the finals. She was the first victim of Iga Swiatek in a final. She's now at least sometimes seeded. She's around 30, somewhere in the 30s. I'm sure people hope she gets a seed because she can be very dangerous, but I don't have her as a favorite to win this tournament. Coco Gauff. She is playing the best tennis that I have seen, and that's even better than I think 2023 and even better than the finals last year. So I'm going to put her in the favorites bucket to talk about later. Pavlyuchenkova, she was a finalist in 2021. She was a great junior player, but she, even with a protected ranking when she came back from injuries, you don't see much or hear much from her, so I'm not going to have her as a favorite. Muchova, who was the 2023 finalist, she beat Sabalenka in a semifinal. She lost to Iga Swiatek in the final. She is somebody who, and she came back in that match. She was down and out. She was going to go through Iga's bakery, but somehow won the second set, was up a break in the third set, but I believe nerves got to her and she did not win. She's also somebody that I haven't seen a lot lately, so I can't put her as a favorite. Jasmine Paolini, the finalist from last year, she is a fan favorite, and I think she used the finals against Iga Swiatek, even though she lost pretty easily in the French Open. She used that as a catapult to play much better. She came close to winning the Wimbledon title last year, but did not. I do think if you can make it to the French Open finals, you can win it, but I don't have her as a favorite. Now I'm going to look at the semifinalists and higher ranking players. Sabalenka, she's number 1 right now. I'm going to put her in the favorites bucket to talk about later. Jessica Pegula, everyone was excited. She just won Charleston. And it was thought that she may actually hopscotch into the number 2 position if Iga Swiatek had a little bit of a wobble, and we know that Swiatek has. She has hopscotched over her, but her compatriot Coco Gauff is the one sitting at number 2 right now. Pegula didn't have points to defend in Madrid or Italy, or nor does she have in the French Open. She won Charleston, but I just think there's too much inconsistency with Jessica Pegula for me to name her as a favorite. Now the next is Madison Keys, my goodness, that Australian Open, that's got to go down in history as one of the greatest triumphs of all time. All the people that she beat, how she beat them. Right now, I think she's in the afterglow of that. She is a former semifinalist here. She knows how to play on clay, but I don't think right now I can put her as a favorite. Mira Andreeva, the just turned 18-year-old, I'm going to put her in the favorite bucket. She was a semifinalist last year. She beat Sabalenka in the quarterfinals. I'm going to talk about her later. Emma Navarro. She was a semifinalist at the US Open last year, and a lot was expected of her. She's kind of been a bit so-so since that time. She is a very good player who you can tell is very keen on getting better. She's extremely fit. I do think a French Open. She's from Charleston, probably knows how to play on the clay. I think a French Open is potentially in her future, but it's in the future, not this year. Jing from China. She is the gold medalist from the Paris Olympics, which were held at Roland Garros last year. I'm going to put her in the favorite bucket to talk about later. Elena Rybakina, who is the winner of Wimbledon. She's been to the finals of Australia. She's won the Italian Open, so she knows how to play on clay. But there's just a little bit too much drama surrounding her regarding her former coach. Is he her coach now? We don't know what all that situation is, and there's just so much drama and noise. I think that that's a little bit too much of a distraction. So I'm going to say she is not a favorite. Now, I'm going to talk about the 4 favorites that I have. And these are the people that I believe, these are the women that I believe have an absolute inside track this year to win the French Open. Jing of China. She won the Olympic gold medal. She gave Iga Swiatek a really tough time in 2022. Probably the toughest match that Iga Swiatek had in the French Open that year. Now she's got a little bit of sometimes hiccups on her serve. She does have some uneven results. She was a finalist in the Australian Open, but then she loses in the first round this year. So she has a little bit of up and down, but she has a high upside. Tomorrow she plays Sabalenka. Sabalenka has proven to be her big roadblock. If she can somehow get past that, she can be one of the true favorites to win this. The next person that I'd like to talk about is Mira Andreeva. And she is the new it girl. She won the Indian Wells, and that tends to be a big foretelling of future success. Think Naomi Osaka in 2018 and Bianca Andreescu in 2019. They would later go on to win the US Opens in those years after winning Indian Wells. She just turned 18. She won all those tournaments that I'm talking about when she was 17. Her issue, she's got 2 issues right now. She can be a little bit of a petulant teenager, and I know that her coach, Conchita Martinez, is trying to get that under control, but you got to keep in mind she's 18, and she does have a little bit of a roadblock. Now, tomorrow she plays Coco Gauff. She's not had success with her. If she can win that match tomorrow, that can give her some serious confidence to move forward. All right, who's the next player? Coco Gauff. I've never seen her play any better than how she is playing right now on clay. She's been a finalist in 2022. She's been a semifinalist. She has got the big roadblock. The draw should not be an issue with her. Iga Swiatek has been conquered. She has beaten her the past 3 times. Doesn't mean she won't lose to her the next time, but that's not any more of a problem for her. Now, she does have one problem, and that's her serve. She does have a double fault problem. Now, a lot of people talk about her forehand, but I think her forehand on clay is a asset more than any kind of issue. Her serve is a problem sometimes. She had one match this year where she served 21 double faults. That's too many. And if you do that, if you remember the final in Madrid, what was the final shot in her loss to Sabalenka? It was a double fault. So she needs to clean that up, but if she cleans that up, she definitely can be the favorite. Now, I'm going to talk about who I believe is the favorite, and that is none other than the undisputed #1 ranked tennis player right now. She's thousands of points ahead of everyone else. She's a 2-time winner of the Australian Open, defending champ of the US Open. And let's take a look at her year that she's had this year. Won Brisbane, lost a heartbreaker 7-5 in the finals at the Australian Open to Madison Keys. Had a little bit, didn't do quite as well in a couple of tournaments in the Middle East, but follows that up with a finals loss, a tough loss to Andreeva in Indian Wells, wins Miami, goes to Stuttgart, doesn't get to drive off the Porsche, but she does make to the finals. Then she wins Madrid. So she has won 3 tournaments this year, been to the finals of the 3 others. She really is at the top right now. And it is her tournament to lose. There's no one in the draw. Iga Swiatek, who would be the favorite, is having a down year. She is at the top of her physical powers. She is the most intimidating player on the WTA. And again, it's hers. It's really hers to lose this year. I wouldn't have her as not being a favorite almost in any tournament. So you're probably saying, well, gee, that was a hard prediction to make. Well, you got to keep in mind that she has never won the French Open. She's never been to the finals of the French Open, and I do not believe that clay is her best surface. I think she's probably the best adapted at the hard court. I think also I think she's a big threat to win Wimbledon this year as well with that big serve. So she does have some drawbacks as far as that is concerned, but otherwise she is the big favorite. So when I see the draw next week, we'll take a quick glance at that, and then we'll also take a look afterwards. Was I really right? Did I make the right prediction in this segment? So if you like this, please hit subscribe and please hit like, and I hope that you return to my channel.